Welcome back to Tutorial Tidbits. I'm Elizabeth St. Hilaire, and this week I'm going to show you just exactly what it is that I create with all these amazing gel prints that I make. I've had a lot of people ask me as of late, what are you going to do with those gel prints? Are you using them for art journaling? Are you using them for card making? And I just assumed you all knew that I was a collage artist. So this week I'm going to show you how to make a bunch of flamingo pink papers and how I use them to collage a paper painting of a flamingo. So if you've got a few minutes, let's go check it out. So today I am making lots of light colored flamingo pink solids so that I can do some layering on top of them. And I'm just laying out tons of color to make tons of base layers for flamingos. Now flamingos are not pink, really, they're orange. So the colors that I'm using are heavy body light magenta, a pyrrole red light, and a titanium white. These are the colors that I'm using to mix this flamingo sort of orangey pink. So I put a little titanium on my plate and a little pyrrole red light and a little bit of the light magenta. And I'm rolling it, brayering it, swirling it together. And I'm getting this lovely sort of salmon pink color that we know flamingos are. Flamingos are not carnation pink. They're more of this orangey pink color. So I'm just printing all these light colored solids so that I can build layers on the salmony pink from here and then build collage paper for flamingos. And flamingos are such a weird color that just doesn't occur in nature. This sort of salmony pink, it's really not anywhere else. And so we sort of have to make these collage papers because they're generally not in our repertoire already of color. So let me move this so you can see it a little better. This is my Dina Wakley 9x11 gel plate. It is my new absolute favorite tool. Why? Because my stencils are 9x12 and because this is 9x11. Because the regular old gel plate is only 8x10. And my pad of gel, my favorite pad of paper for the gel plate is 9x12. So, but today I'm working on some oversized sheets that I got in Chinatown of rice paper. And because of the width of these at 11, I can get the full width of the paper and print twice. Now, if I was only at 10, I'd be short and shy. So, so the next thing that I do always with my gel prints is that I layer slightly darker than where I started, and I typically start with a stencil. So, like I said, I've started these with the pyrrole red light, the titanium white, and the heavy body light magenta. Now, this heavy body light magenta is very, very opaque. You can see the black tick marks through the pyrrole red light painted on the front of the container. You can sort of see the black tick marks on through the titanium white paint, but you can't see any tick marks through that light magenta. This is a totally opaque color, so that is only being used on the bottom layer, because when I start layering on top of things, I don't want this color to block out my previous layers. So the cap is going on that, and I am not using quinacridone magenta because it's too pink. So I'm sticking with the pyrrole red light, the pyrrole orange, and at times a bit of primary magenta, which is a little bit more red and a little bit less purple. But I don't want to get too much of this because it'll give me that carnation pink color. So I've got one of my masks. This is called The Dance. This is one of my latest peacock masks with joggles.com. And that's what I'm going to use for my first layer on this literal pile, of flamingo pink sheets that I started. I've done this because I am going to be using them in collage. I have to say that the comment that I'm getting the most lately is, what in the world are you going to do with all these gel prints? And I guess I just assumed that everyone knew I was a collage artist, but there are many new people to my YouTube, and they don't know that what I do with all these papers that I make on the plate is that I tear them up into little pieces and glue them down to create impressionistic collages, which I will show you in a minute. But right now, so in the interest of making flamingo pink paper and in layering like we always do, I'm going to start with this base layer. I'm going to put out a little pyro red light. I'm going to roll that out, and that's probably significantly darker than this, and I want to make a slight subtle jump with my first layer, so I'm going to add some white to that. Hopefully it's not too light, but if it's way light, which it is, and it can go over the layer below it lighter, that's a good thing. But right now it's the same value basically, so it's not going to really show up. So let me see if I've got one that's a little darker here. No, they're all about that value. So let's just print that off on this and see if we can get a little darker. So I'll print that off on that one. I'll print it over this one, which is definitely too pink. We'll take advantage of this orange because that layer was way too pink. So that'll bring it into a little bit of an orange. So let's try again. Let's go with the pyro red light. And we'll just add a little bit of the primary magenta. The light magenta, just a tiny smidge. So it won't really be opaque, but it'll just blend in and lighten up. A little bit less light than the white, although I'm back to close to the same value. So let's put out the dance mask and print it on top of this light colored layer and see if we can get a subtle pattern over that. There we go. This is very nice. This is what I'm looking for, a subtle layer. The next layer should be subtle so that we can go then darker and then darker again. So I've still got some paint on there. So let's see if I can print that a second time on the other end of this sheet. And there we go. We have another subtle layer. So we have this whole sheet of a nice subtle layer. Then we have a ghost print, which we will lift up and transfer to this light colored solid. Let's just grab that ghost print. That's the paint that was trapped underneath the mask and was still wet when we pulled it up. And that gives me a lovely ghost print on this light sort of pinkish layer. So again, I'm going to use the pyro red light and a little bit of primary magenta. This one's going to be a little darker for my darker base layers. Roll that out. Remember that flamingo is more orange than pink and that we are layering. So we're going to put that dance stencil back on there and we're going to put it on the end of this sheet. That's a nice bright contrast. We'll do it again on the other end as there is still more paint in there. That's a bit of a more subtle contrast. I'm going to grab this one that I did the ghost print on. Whoops, I'm not worried about it tearing because we are going to tear it up for collage. But this is why it's a benefit to have all these light colored solids already made. So now we're just cranking through the production. We'll lift this up and we'll transfer that onto this prepared sheet. And we'll grab that ghost print. Then there's still a little bit more of ghost print down there. So we'll flip it over the other side and grab it again. So now we've got some nice subtle prints on this one. Then if we want to go lighter, we can take titanium white and the color that is still wet in the brayer. Just enough of that color wet in the brayer is just going to tint that white down to a light layer. And again, using that same mask, we can come here and go over a darker. So we can go light over dark because the titanium is opaque. So it is going to go over the dark and give us this nice subtle pattern. There's still more paint trapped in there, so we'll grab it again. That's even more subtle, but now we've got a ghost print. So since that was so subtle on the other side, let's put this over it. So now we've got just a nice subtle pattern sheet. And again, I'll come to the pyro red. I'll use the light that's still in my brayer and I'll roll out sort of another sort of light medium using the same mask, the dance. and starting on sort of a marbled sheet here. And this is just a light colored solid that I made. And I'm going to transfer that for a nice subtle. And then I'm going to do a second print for an even more subtle pattern on that end. I'll lift this up to the ghost print and I'll grab another prepared solid and print that. And that's really subtle, so we probably need to do that again. So we'll go to Pyrrole Orange this time, plus a little bit of primary magenta and a little smidge of light magenta. And we'll mix that, roll it together. That light magenta is not going to be totally opaque because it's blended with some more translucent colors, and we'll get a nice thin layer, and this will go over this color nicely. So we'll again put the dance stencil down, the mask, I'm sorry, and print that. And we get a nice subtle shift in value, still more paint in there. And so I'll print the other end. Now I've got this full sheet. And again, I'm going to come back, lift the mask, and transfer the ghost print. So I know I'm moving fast for you right now. These are the kinds of in-depth lessons that are on my Patreon page every single week. So the link for my Patreon page is in the upper right-hand corner. And my Patreon page is a $25 per month subscription, and you get a full-length tutorial every single week. And you have access to everything that was previously published in the archives, including the Building Better Backgrounds workshop, which if you buy it independently is $150, as well as the Wizard of Oz portrait series, which is available nowhere else. So my Patreon is a great value, and I'm going to make some more of these flamingo papers, and then I'm going to come back and show you how I applied them in a collage. And the collage application is another in-depth lesson that is on my Patreon page. So after I go through this pile and make some more prints, I'm going to come back and show you how I used them. Okay, so now I have printed with the dance mask all of these papers, a pile of flamingo pink papers from light to medium to dark values, all different values and patterns and layers of the flamingo paper. And now what do I do with it? I make collages. But before I make collages, I am going to show you, I am going to take a brief intermission to show you how I clean up my tabletop. This is my non-stick craft mat made by Rangers, available at joggles.com. This dry paint I am scraping with a gift card, credit card, Starbucks card, whatever you want to call it. And I am just scraping all of this dried paint right off of my non-stick craft mat surface. And once I get the majority of it scraped, which is super easy, after a quick scrape with the plastic card, I come back with a wet cloth and just rub, maybe give a little extra rub to the areas that didn't lift up, or just enough moisture to lift them up with the scraping card a second time, although this is all just coming up nicely, rather nicely. So this is my non-stick craft mat surface. This is why whenever you come to a video here, it's all nice and clean. And you see how easy it was to clean up. Now, varnish, paint, glue, it all scrapes off and wipes up just the same. So if you're looking for a great surface, this is sold by joggles.com, and it is by the foot. So I have a 6-foot table out here, and this surface is over the entire thing. So that link is in your upper right-hand corner. So after a long while of layering and layering and layering and painting papers, I have got a full range of values of collage paper. What does that mean? That means I've got papers that go all the way from the lightest light, the highlight light, to the light medium, to the medium dark, to the dark, to the darkest shadow. This is the full range of values of the Flamingo colored papers that I create with the gel plate, because my ultimate goal is to tear up these pieces of paper and create a collage. So with this full range of values, I was able to create this Flamingo collage. Now, if you look up close, you will see that all of the brush marks that look like paint are actually small little pieces of torn, hand-painted, gel-printed collage papers. I am creating a painting with torn bits of gel-printed papers. And you can see in this example that I have used that full range of values. So let's look at some of these really light lights that start out at the bottom. Those are in the highlight parts of the tail feathers. In the rounded part that's catching the light at the top, you're going to see these light values. Then we're going to move into the middle values. Many options for middle values I've created with my gel printing. And those are going to be down here on this side, in parts of the neck, in parts of the shadow in here, and around the face. We're going to have some of these middle values and these darker values over here. Then we're going to get into the dark values of collage paper, and those are going to be even darker down here and the pieces in between here. So we've got these nice dark values. And then last but not least, I've got the deep dark value and the shadow color. So you can see that I've used this for the shadow in here, for the shadow, and the dark shadow color. So when I'm creating gel printed papers with my gel press, I am making them to have the full range of values for collage. So if you would like in-depth collage application tutorials, sketching, painting, and then gluing the paper on top, those multi-part in-depth lessons are on my Patreon page, and that link is in the upper right-hand corner. That is where you're going to find a video every month that goes step by step along the full process of my collage artwork. And I give you tidbits here on YouTube, but if you're interested in the full process, you're going to want to come and check me out on Patreon in the upper right hand corner. And just as a reminder, the non-stick craft mat, the stencil, the brayers, the gel plate, and all the products that I've used in this video are going to be on the supply list in the upper right hand corner. Please click on that. And remember, if you would love to receive this YouTube video every week to your email inbox as a nice, neat blog post with links for products, a description of the video, and a place to click so that you never miss it, subscribe to my newsletter, and that link's in the upper right-hand corner. Also, last but not least, if you've missed any of these videos and you'd like to find them all in one place, check out my blog. That's on my website. Upper right-hand corner again, the blog is going to list all the YouTube videos that I have published all in one place. So thank you so much for being here. I hope that all of you who were curious as to what I did with all these beautiful gel printed papers now understand that it is a paper painting process of a collage that looks like an impressionistic painting, all created with little torn up bits of hand-painted collage paper adhered over the top of an acrylic underpainting. Happy Friday, and thank you for being here.